Oh, shoot.
Okay, one quick check here. And we are live.
Okay, welcome to the special executive meeting. Today's date is August 17th, 2020. It's been a while since we've been in session. How is everybody?
Doing good.
Good. All right. Are we ready for a roll call?
All right. Ms. Cheney,
Here.
Mr. Friedenoff,
Here.
Mr. Simile,
Here.
Ms. Snyder.
Here.
I believe all members are present.
Okay. Has everyone had a chance to look at the proposed agenda for tonight?
Yeah.
Okay. Does anyone want to add or change anything? No?
Make a motion to accept the agenda.
Okay.
Second.
All right. Motion, agenda is adopted. Okay, and we have no one here to address the committee tonight, so we will move on to approving March's minutes. Did everyone review the March minutes?
Make a motion to approve the minutes from the March meeting.
Second.
Okay, those are approved. And so now we're moving on to,
Hold on, we need a vote.
oh, sorry.
Are all members in favor? Say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Do we need to do that for the first one too?
Yeah, probably.
Okay, sorry. Okay, motion,
We can do a roll call vote. Why don't we do a roll call, starting with the motion to adopt the agenda. So I have a first by Mr. Simile, a second by Mr.
Okay.
Friedenoff. Ms. Cheney, roll call.
Yes.
Mr. Friedenoff,
Yes.
Mr. Simile,
Yes.
Ms. Snyder.
yes.
All right. And a second roll call to approve the March 2020 Executive Committee minutes. I have a first by Mr. Simile, a second by Mr. Friedenoff. Roll call, Ms. Cheney,
Yes.
Mr. Friedenoff,
Yes.
Mr. Simile,
Yes.
and Ms. Snyder.
Yes.
All members voted to approve the minutes.
Okay. So on to old business. Mr. Hirth.
Okay, let me find the agenda here. So, the merry pandemic has wreaked so much havoc on everything that we're doing, but we're getting stuff done. And what I'll do is just give you a quick update on some of the things that we had talked about in March that we had hoped that we would have had accomplished or been darn close to it at this time. One good thing, the Stover Road project ended on Saturday of this last weekend. So final blacktop is down all the way from the start of the private property in the cul-de-sac to Lasanaville. What needs to be done yet is they haven't yet installed the speed humps. There will be one that goes in near the synagogue on the Lasanaville to Bremont portion, and then there will be two that go in between Bremont and Rosedale. So that's a huge achievement. That was a big project. Over $1 million spent on that with road improvements, curbs, and with doing a larger water lines. So hopefully that'll be something that lasts, we're hoping 20 years or more with maintenance. On rental property licensing, if you recall, we had a gentleman here from the Greater Cincinnati Apartment Association who spoke with the administration separately from the executive committee to talk about gaining their consensus on what we want to do with our draft legislation for rental property licensing. We had not yet been to the point of distributing that, I don't believe, to the executive committee. The reason being that the city of Cincinnati was doing model legislation that would also address the same issue. And we were hoping to see what Cincinnati does to see if there's something that we could borrow or look like it might be more advantageous for us to adopt. That process has not come up on their council's agenda for several months. And I'm not getting any indication if it is going to come back. With the pandemic, that really is not a priority project for us right now, as we're managing the budget and some other things. So what I'm recommending is that we place that item in future business. And another time, at this point in time, we're probably looking at not resurrecting that again until either the fourth quarter or the first quarter of next year. Same thing is the issue with the vacant building ordinance. With a lot of the turmoil and disruptions residents and property owners have been dealing with, and with things here in the administration, we just have not yet followed up on reissuing letters to those 24 properties that we had originally contacted. I would hope that if no other curveballs are thrown at us, that's something that we'll be able to address in the third quarter of this year. Finally, the 2020 census. Andy, I don't know if you have any update.
Yeah.
We're pretty much on hold with some things, but some things are moving.
Right. So I wanted to provide a few updates as to the response rate in the village. As of last Friday, the village had a 64.2% response rate. For perspective on this rate, in the last census in 2010, total village response rate for the entire 2010 census was 65.6. So we're about 1.5 points off, and the census takers haven't really gone out in full force yet. Now, for some perspective on where we currently stand, to say the city of Cincinnati. So the village, again, has a 64.2% response rate at this time. The city of Cincinnati has a 53.1. So we are doing significantly better than at least the city of Cincinnati. And I think once the census takers go out in the village in full force, we should easily exceed the 2010 levels. It was announced last week that the 2020 census will close on September 30th of this year. So that gives a little over a month for the census takers to find everyone in the village who hasn't responded yet. But it's my understanding that they're getting ready to do that shortly, if not have started already. So so we have a 64.2% response rate. And the close of the census will be September 30th of this year.
Can I say something? Okay.
Yes.
My sister is the census taker for 45237. She has been out for a week now.
Okay.
Working, and she has been in Gulf Manor. She has had luck getting some people to report to her, and she is having a little bit of hard time at the apartment buildings that are locked. So there's nothing we can do about that. Just
Right.
want you to fill you in. She is out.
Okay, great.
So hopefully it'll be higher soon.
Yeah. It's gone up about 1.5 points since the last time I checked. It was a little over 2 weeks ago.
Good.
So that's improvement.
Yeah.
Miss Janey and Mr. Lanzer, if it's all right, Miss Chair.
Yes.
I had a question about that closing date. I had written down somewhere something about October 31st, which is a month's difference. So,
I received communication from the Census Bureau, from the Complete Count Committee last
Okay.
week. They said that the census date has been moved forward to September. The close of the census date has been moved to September 30th. And as of last Friday, I received another email last Friday saying that there were only 47 days left until the census closes.
okay, very good. I had information that said that the last day to self-respond by phone or online was October 31st, and that clearly is inaccurate information. You're saying that's September 30th.
Yeah, the
Correct.
communication I received, and I can read you the first couple sentences of the email I received last week was, as many of you have, this is from the Greater Cincinnati Counts. What they've said was, as many of you have heard, the U.S. Census Bureau has confirmed it will close the census response period on September 30th.
All right, thank you for the clarification.
Yep.
Okay, that closes the old business, and I need to find you guys. Second, there you are. So, next thing on the agenda is the speed hump project. And I'm going to share the screen here. Hopefully you've all reviewed the information that I provided in the online packet. So what our intent is, this is an off-road construction project, so it's going to be a separate project to doing anything else that we're doing with the roads. We have proposed with putting speed hump locations at multiple new spots in the village, which would include 2 speed humps on Hamel, 2 on Graceland, and these are permanent, by the way. Canterbury gets 2, Englewood gets 1, St. Albans gets 2, Elbrook gets 2, Mayflower gets 2. So there's kind of a theme to this. All of the north-south roads are getting at least 2 speed humps. As part of the Vera Road project, we will also be putting in 3 speed humps on Vera, 1 in the short section to the east of Fair Oaks, 2 in the west section between Fair Oaks and Elbrook, and then another one, which will be a part of this project, will be 1 coming out of Amberley Village by the village sign that's there. That's all designed to slow down a lot of the quick traffic that comes out of Amberley. So I'm not going to go into the actual details of this. One of the things that will also be done is we will adopt standard striping on our speed humps, which will be a double arrow. If you can see this here, does everybody see that? And that'll be done in yellow thermal striping. So it'll be reflective, and it'll also be better to maintain, so our maintenance guys aren't always going to have to go out every couple of years and fix those. The police chief has chosen the specific spots for them, taking note of where the driveways are and where the maximum impact for the speed humps will be. So this project is going to cost between, after it's bidded, we estimate between $60,000 and $70,000. My signing authority is $50,000. However, I would have come to council to ask for your buy-in on this anyway. But since it's over $50,000, we have to go to public bid to get the best price. And once we attain that bid, we will bring this back to council for approval of the funding. So what I wanted to do this evening is get in principle council's agreement to move forward on this project. Then beyond that, we will come back to the finance committee on September 14th, if the bids go out that quickly, And then if they don't, then we'll be back sometime the end of September and October to ask for funding for this project. Any questions?
Are the current speed humps also going to get repainted as a
Yeah.
part of this project?
That is correct.
Okay.
The other thing that we're looking at is you might remember on when you used to turn on Englewood, there was a double yellow line to direct traffic, that was a 2-lane street there. We're also looking at bringing that back, and then also restriping in the Losanaville project that got missed, where the sidewalk is between the buildings on Vera over to the opposite side of Losanaville. I don't know if I know we have 2 Vera residents here. Do you know where that's? I know Sharon knows where that sidewalk is. Are you familiar with it?
Yeah, I'm not 100% sure which one you're talking about.
Okay, so it runs between the buildings. A lot of people apparently on the weekends do a lot of walking through that area and use that as a cut through.
Yeah.
So we want to
Okay.
get that
Yeah, I got
restriped or striped. So that'll be a part of this project.
Does that go through the service drive? Is that the one you're referring to?
It goes to the service drive, doesn't it, Sharon?
Yeah, you mean the walkway, right? That goes from the service drive back to Amberley?
Correct.
Yes.
Okay, yeah, I'm familiar with it.
So any questions about that project? One of the things that we will be doing is making sure that the markings on the road are renewed, particularly the curbs at the end of road projects. So our maintenance crew will be gearing up to do that for Stover here in the next couple of weeks. But that will also be done with the Short Elbrook Service Drive and Vera project next year.
Would you like us to make a motion to recommend approval of the speed hump project to council?
Or how about a motion to recommend moving forward to council?
Okay. Do we have a motion?
So a motion?
I'll second it.
Okay. All in favor?
Aye.
Okay.
Thank you. So I'm gonna end
Hey, Ron, can you refresh my memory real quick when the Vera Road project is slated to start?
They're starting the engineering now to prepare for bidding in November. And the anticipation is that would be like the Stover project. If the winter holds out, they'll start in December. The caution on Vera is that is also, well, it's probably going to be a 6 or 7 month project. They're not doing any water lines, but it is going to be a long, tedious project like Stover was. The other thing is that that's a more densely populated area of the village. I was talking to Chief Campbell today about some things that we might do to alleviate parking. So we'll be talking to council more about that as we get closer to that date. I don't want to announce that project until we actually sign contracts, which will probably be sometime in November. So what council will need to do is once the engineering's done and we have financing in place, and we do have anticipated financing now through the state and the county, they're going to pay for half of the project. At that point, I'll be able to ask council to give me the authority to sign, to obligate ourselves financially to doing that project. So in theory, this time next year, Vera should be about a month done.
Thank
And
you.
hopefully that will correct some of the drainage problems that are happening at Vera and Elbrook. Okay, so moving along, let me share the screen on this one. So we've been doing 1 or 2 road projects a year since 2016. We've completed Losanaville, Ardmore, Fair Oaks, Eastern St. Albans. We now have Stover as a feather in our cap, and we're going to do Vera next year. Now we turn our attention towards projects in 2022, because believe it or not, it's time to start applying for funding for that. So I sent out to everybody a couple of weeks ago the 2018 road plan that was developed by our engineer. Some of the roads have changed in maintenance that's needed. One of the things the village had previously done is, rather than replacing the curbs, the engineer had identified broken areas of the curb. Those were repaired. And what we're finding is happening now is the areas that weren't repaired are starting to crumble. So we're adopting a philosophy that when we do these road projects, unless the curbs are 100% sound, we're not going to be repairing curbs anymore. We're going to be replacing them because it puts us into a very difficult situation if the curb starts to deteriorate. So the engineer, looking at the 2018 plan, went out. Andy and I went out. We looked to see what looks like it needs the most attention. And the number one project that we all agree on is doing Elbrook Avenue, which will be from LaSantaville to the Corporation line. It's a logical choice because we will be completing Short Elbrook next year in 2021. It would make sense just to go ahead and continue that project over to the Corp line in 2022. A second area that the engineer said we could do, and all of this is based on how we get funding, Canterbury and Englewood could qualify as a singular project. The complication with doing that one is Englewood is going to get an extensive water line repair, I should say replacement, to increase the water pressure in the eastern side of the village and also in the city of Cincinnati. So with the extensive construction that's going to take place there, it doesn't make sense to try and attack that in 2022 because that will be in the middle of that project at that time. The next priority they identified was Weehee. Weehee is a major public road. It qualifies for municipal road fund for MRF funding, which will be about $50,000 to $75,000 based on what they have looked at this point. So we would mill, overlay, do full depth repairs and full curb replacement, including the sidewalks. The reason the sidewalk will be included at the village's expense on this project is because it's integral to the curb. We can't replace the curb without replacing the sidewalk because there is no easement that's made of grass there like in the other areas of the village. What the engineer has recommended is that we do the Elbrook project, apply for that for 2022, and that we concurrently apply to do the Weehee Avenue project, corp to corp. And that also includes North Weehee, which is the area where the blighted buildings are. That should help us in terms of our renovation of that part of the village. We could get funding for both of these projects. Likely it would be only for one. The engineer has recommended that we submit two projects because we don't know what mood the board is going to be in on the day that they approve these. They may think that it's better to do an industrial area rather than a residential area. We will emphasize that our preference is to do the residential area because of the number of curb problems that we're having there. The Canterbury Englewood project would probably be held to 2023, and that could be combined with the Hamel Canterbury to the Corporation line project and do that all as one piece in 2023.
On that Canterbury and Englewood, since it's part of a different program, could we just do Canterbury for now? Because what I call Lake Canterbury by the speed bump.
So do we.
is one or two more winters, and I think that turns into a major liability.
So one of the things that we have to look at closely, we have a significant amount of money in the road fund that only goes towards these projects. Mr. Lanzer will need to analyze with the current obligations we have and then taking on new obligations, how many projects we can take on. If it turns out that it makes sense to do a smaller project next year, or I'm sorry, in 2022, then we would probably do the Canterbury Englewood piece of it. The biggest problem there, to get funding, it needs to be those two roads combined. And if the waterworks is complicating that and they will not be completed in 2022, we would have to wait for another year to make that application.
Thanks.
So as we did with the last time we looked at this, when we approved Vera, Ms. Snyder, what I had asked the executive committee to do was to endorse our plan to move forward on, and what I would like to have from this committee is an endorsement to pass on to council to proceed with the Elbrook, for an application for Elbrook, and then an application for WEHE for the engineers to start working on that for 2022 road funding.
Okay, do I have a motion?
Yeah, so motioned.
I'll second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
All right, thank you.
Great, thank you for that. I appreciate it. There's been a lot of work on that. Let's see, let me find the agenda. Okay, I had hoped, let's see, Chief Campbell, you're here. Chief.
Yeah, I'm here.
Okay, good. So, going to give you a little bit of background. Prior to Chief Campbell, and before I became mayor in 2015, we had 4 in-service police cars. 2 were 2009 Dodge Chargers. The other 2 were 2012 Dodge Chargers. At the time, so this would have been at the end of 2015, beginning of 2016, the 2009 Dodge Chargers started to become an excessive expense in repairs. So Chief Campbell sourced 2 Ford Explorers to replace them that we took ownership on in 2016. One of those Dodge Chargers was sold off. The other one became the chief's car. Generally, a municipality, when you get a new chief, will provide a new car to the chief. That was not something that we had been in the practice of doing. And then obviously Chief Campbell took the in-service cruiser. Then at that time, I had said to the police department, I wanted to get us on a program where we are buying 1 police car a year with the anticipation that police cars have a 4-year service life. Because I don't want to get us into a position again, or see us get into a position again of where we have multiple cars down and we have an emergency where we need to buy multiple cars. So that all took place in the beginning of 2016. At the end of 2016, we brought on the K9 program. That was the purchase of a K9 car that goes with K9 Chief. And generally the practice with K9 cars is that they last the service time of the dog. And when the dog retires, the car retires. And then if you get a new K9 unit after that, then you buy a new vehicle and you re-establish the needs for the capital needs for that program. The 2016 K9 car pays off this year. The 2 previous Ford Explorers I talked about paid off last year or a couple years ago. So those are all paid for now. In 2017, we ran into the problem then that the 2 Dodge Chargers started falling apart, the 2012s. We sold them, actually we replaced them with 2 2018 Dodge Durangos. So again, we had to buy 2 cars again. But then that took care of the problem with the constant repairs that we needed on the Chargers. the Chargers were sold to a municipality in Kentucky. Then at the beginning of, so we're paying on those till the end of next year. The chief's car died early this year. Prior to the pandemic, we got him a new car. That car pays out, I believe, through the end of next year. Is that correct, Mr. Lanzer? I believe the chief is talking about paying it off early.
Yeah, the intention is to pay it off early. We took a 36-month, I believe, I don't have it right in front of me, but I believe we took a 36-month loan on that, but we have every intention of paying it off early as additional funding comes in.
Okay. So we will still have that loan next year. So our goal is to get on to a 4-year replacement program with the patrol cars. So unit number 116, which was one of the Explorers that we purchased in 2016, is now starting to become a maintenance problem because of the continuous use. So that car now is up for replacement next year. So it will have its 4 years of service in. The chief has come to the administration requesting that we replace that car next year. But what they've asked to replace it with is a police truck. It's a Dodge Ram truck. It's a 4-person cab. It will be outfitted and branded like our other police cars, but it will replace car number 116. They have been working with Mr. Lanzer on a financing package. I believe it's through Dodge. That will allow us to make an initial payment at the beginning of 2021, and then a second payment on it towards the end of 2021. So then the car will be paid off. Mr. Lanzer has looked through our budget, has analyzed it. It's something that we can afford. We would like to go ahead and order that replacement car now and take delivery of it when it's ready, but the first payment won't be due until 2021. That leaves the question, what happens to the unit number 116? The police department, Chief Campbell has asked that we retain that vehicle as a backup car. And what I'm going to ask Chief to do here in just a moment is explain to you how we use these and how we rotate these and how this makes sense to hold on to this vehicle. If we hold on to this vehicle, keep in mind that we will not, that it's paid for, it's ours, we own it. There is no additional insurance expense because it's covered under our fleet plan. So other than consumables such as oil, gas, tires, it won't cost the village anything to hold on to that car. Chief, would you like to address your usage of these?
Sure. Can you hear me okay?
Yes.
Okay. Yeah, the benefit, what we've seen is when we run 4 regular cruisers, the officers work 12-hour shifts. So there's 2 on at a time on a typical day. What happens is there's 2 cars in use most of that shift, and there's 2 cars that are parked and resting from the previous shift, night shift or day shift, depending on what time we're talking about. The issue that we've run into for a few years now is if we have a car that's down for repairs, it requires one of our cruisers to basically be in operation for 24 hours continuous. That's really, really hard on the cars. When we have a repair, typically what happens is when we have a vehicle that's out for service, if it's out for an extended time, 4 days, 5 days, sometimes longer, we almost always are followed up with taking 1 or 2 of the other cars in for service just from them running for so long. By keeping this 5th vehicle, we'll have a backup car to use when we have vehicles that are out for repairs. It also will be available for Sergeant Reed to use. He's frequently had to come in the middle of the night when we've had instances of, we've had a call where we've had a bomb run late at night. We've had shootings late at night. And it's beneficial for him to be able to respond straight to a scene with all of his equipment versus trying to get there in his personal car, get his equipment, and get to the scene. But the main benefit I see is giving the cars a break while we have cars out for service. Last week, we were down to 2 cars for 3 days. So our 2 cars that we had ran for 3 days, more or less.
Any questions from the committee? I think Mr. Prynoff might be talking. No.
Sorry, speaking to my wife in the background. My apologies.
Sorry about that. All right, so if there are no questions, go ahead.
I believe the mayor would like to speak.
Yeah, I had a question. I'm not on the committee. I'm clear on that. I don't have experience with how gasoline reimbursement works when you have someone that's driving a car from home to work every day. Could someone tell me how that works?
I'm not aware of any agency or jurisdiction that does that. I couldn't speak to that.
So we have an account with a company called Fuelman, which allows the officers to use almost any gas station in town. They have preferred ones. And of course, they're always looking for the best gas rate close by. So each car has a Fuelman card in it. And that is the practice, Chris. Is that correct, Chris? Chris?
Yeah, I have to find my unmute button. Sorry.
Sorry about that.
We have cards for each vehicle.
So we would simply just have another card for that particular vehicle. They are secured. Any purchase of gas, the receipts have to be turned in, and then they are reconciled to Fuelman bill when it comes in monthly. So that's our control.
So that's the question that I had, is that we're paying for folks to drive back and forth from home to work, or no?
We're keeping the vehicles fueled. If somebody takes the vehicle home, what we're really paying is for them to have the ability to get to work quickly. An example I can give you is a couple years ago, UDF was robbed and we had a shooting down on Stover the same day. I was responding in my personal vehicle. I was pulled over. I guess I was in a hurry, where we have marked units that, eliminates that.
So Mayor, what's different here is that the chief is given his own vehicle and the village pays for the chief to use that vehicle at his discretion. Same thing takes place with the canine vehicle. So basically the dog and the car are one unit and Forrest drives the car. This would be somewhat different in that in an exceptional emergency of some sort, or if there's some kind of an event going on, that it would be prudent for for Reed to take that car home with him. It would be at the chief's discretion to do that. That has also happened, I think, once or twice with Detective Matthews. She is the lead investigator when incidents happen in the village and Reed is not accessible or is not available. So all of these folks that would ever take their car home with them have to sign a release and an understanding of the village's policies. Chris, do you have anything to add to that?
No, I don't have anything to add to that. I think you summed it up pretty well.
Okay, thank you for the clarification.
Andy, speaking from the finance committee, have we gotten any facts or figures as far as the financing for the truck?
I have not received any financing from them, which is somewhat unusual because everything that they needed was sent to them Tuesday morning, and I was told that I would receive financing within 24 to 48 hours. I did follow up with our contact there this afternoon, and I haven't heard anything back as of yet, but I'll be on the lookout for that and pass it along as soon as I receive it.
Thanks.
So there's no legislation for this evening on this because there are no financial documents. We would table this issue until September 14th. And I'm proposing that the mayor call a special finance committee meeting that night at 6 o'clock. At that, what the major reason for talking about this in this committee is generally with the executive committee, we talk to you about needs of safety within the village. So you are now aware of the need. What we would then do is go to the finance committee and ask for financing. If this committee would like to go ahead and make a motion for us to continue moving forward on this. I don't know that it's necessary to bring this to action for council. Since we're not doing anything with the finance piece of it, we probably just need to do that at the next meeting.
I would like,
Okay,
would like to add something.
sure.
The reason we're moving kind of quickly on this is the vehicle that we sourced. It's new, but it's a 2019 that's on the lot. So it saves us about $5,000. The dealership that we're working with, they had a certain number. They've sold 5 of them since we've started interacting with them. So they only have a few left. He's trying to hold them. If we do have some kind of financing information, they could set it aside for 2 weeks, but I don't think they will if we don't know for sure which direction we're going.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Hirth and Chief Campbell. I suppose we don't need to make a motion at this time, then, if this is being tabled.
Actually, it would be good if this committee could weigh in on whether or not you'd like us to move forward. Then we can communicate that to the vendor, that it's just a matter of working out the financing. If that makes
Okay,
sense.
sure. Does anyone want to weigh in?
I guess I would have a question. Does anyone have any major objections why we wouldn't want to go forward with this plan?
Nobody?
So I would voice my support to continue in this course of action to purchase the
Okay.
vehicle.
So could
Okay.
you do that in a form of a motion?
Yeah, I guess to make what would be the motion? The motion is to pursue the purchase of this Dodge pickup truck for the police department.
Chris, what is the year and the model of the truck?
It's a 2019 Ram special service. I'm not sure of the term they use for this type of use. It's just I believe it's a special service. Andy,
Chris, on the vendor sheet, it's listed as a 2019 Dodge Ram 1500.
gotcha.
So Mr. Prinock, is that just add that to your motion?
So I would make a motion to proceed with the purchase of the 2019 Dodge Ram 1500 with specifications for police departments. Obviously, that we should continue in that direction and we should pursue that purchase.
I'll say,
A second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
All right.
Beck, how much is it? Just because I don't think that got mentioned.
I'm sorry.
Sorry, I was chewing on ice cube. How much is it? We didn't talk a price tag at all.
Okay, yeah, I have it pulled up right here. The vehicle itself is $29,371. And then after all the updating and upkeep and upfitting, it jumps up to, I believe, close to $60,000. So we submitted financing for 36 months at $60,000, and that's all in for purchasing the vehicle and outfitting and detailing and getting it up to police back.
One of the things that we failed to mention is the reason we're doing this as a truck. When we have had the necessity to transport things, whether they be barriers, confiscated belongings, TVs, big stuff, our cars, our police vehicles currently do not have the capacity or the size to be able to get some of those things in. So our personnel have been using their own vehicles to transport stuff. And I do not advocate our employees using their personal vehicles for public business. I think that gets into a number of liability issues. So this is another reason why they want to replace this vehicle with a truck. And that is the end of my, that's it for new business.
All right, thank you, Ms. Earth. Looks like we are pretty good on time, but we should adjourn. Do I have a motion to adjourn?
So motion?
Second.
All right, all in favor?
Aye.
All right, I will see you guys in about 10 minutes.
Yeah, what I would do so we can make this two separate recordings, if everybody could close out and then log back in to that same link.
Okay.
Sure.
Will do.
Thank you.
Thanks, everybody.